Welcome to Beyond the Physical, a podcast that uncovers the secrets to tapping into the world beyond form to thrive in life and business. I'm your host, Sitara FE, a world-renowned psychic medium, quantum business coach, and your guide on this journey beyond the physical. Each episode will dive into spiritual insights, intuitive wisdom, and practical strategies to help you discover your personal greatness. Please feel free to find me on Instagram and YouTube at sitara.speaks for daily connection. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Before we proceed with today's episode, please note that this was originally recorded as an Instagram Live, and you'll notice some instances where I encourage some interaction. If you find yourself wanting to do so or to catch us live, please feel free to dial in by commenting on any of my posts on Instagram, and I'll be happy to send you a DM. Hi, my loves. I am currently on day 4 of a very intense and very gentle, thank goodness, but very thorough gut parasite cleanse, which is really working. It's really working. I'm really amazed at, just how quickly it is working. So part of all of this, I wanted to chat with you a little bit more about entities and answer some of the questions that you have. I actually have been getting some really great questions in my inbox with some people who are very interested in this topic, interested in learning how they influence you, your inner world, and unfortunately, how common they are in our reality. Now, I recognize that with the entity clearing and all of that, it is actually not something that is like a interesting topic of conversation for most people. It's definitely not the most exciting, but in some cases, it absolutely is the most important. So, with that being said, why don't you go ahead and let me know where you are tuning in from. I'd love to just see where we're at on this global scale. I'm tuning in a time that is unusual, so I'm sure I'll be seeing a few new faces here. But let's go ahead and open the space and open our connection here with the prayer. So as we call in divine truth and love into this sacred space, we invoke the highest possible healing for each and every viewer, replayer, and myself. We ask for the courage and compassion to speak and to hear from the purest form of self-love and forgiveness to all involved. Beautiful. So we've got Phoenix from the Northwest, from Michigan, from Canada. Welcome, 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 welcome. So for those of you that are here, have you been tuning into any of the recent lives where I have talked about some of these things with entities? Have you had personal experiences with them? I really wanted to hop on here and answer some of the questions that you may have as well. I want to go ahead and see if I can, I don't know if I can scroll through my emails right now to find that question that I got. Might be too far down. Beautiful. Here we go. All right. So are entities more attracted to light workers? Yes and no. I don't think so. And also simultaneously, sometimes that can be the case as far as moths being attracted to a flame. And so that connection of, like, sometimes I will go into a bar, and this is why I don't particularly like going to shows that are in bars or going to bars in general, is that sometimes I will go, and if I am not in a clear state of presence and, activating my field in a way that allows me to be fully protected, like I can't really go in there comfortably and let my guard down. And part of the reason for that is that one of my natural gifts is being able to cross earth bounds and cross entities and do all of this stuff. And so I do think in some ways that's how I get what I call clingers. They're not like full-blown entity attachments that, you know, will influence so many things in my world and really disrupt my life. But on some level, I will allow them to come in. And I think part of it is the agreement to move them on, but I just don't particularly like doing it. So that's one of the things. It's like, are they more attracted to light workers? Yes, it's possible, but I don't necessarily think it's that they're more attracted to light workers. I think it's that light workers have a higher propensity to be able to see them. So just because somebody cannot see them does not mean that they don't exist, and doesn't mean that they're not actually also affecting their life. So something to be aware of there. Beautiful. So a few nights ago, you felt like you were being attacked in your sleep with some kind of dark beings. You didn't know what to do other than invoke the name of Jesus and ask them to flee from me. Yep, that's one way, especially if you're dealing with sleep paralysis. Ultimately, they don't like light. They don't like light. So, well, it's kind of a funny thing. They do and they don't like light. It's that they will try, like the vampirical entities will come and try to like siphon life force energy and try to siphon your light. Whereas like what you're specifically talking about, if they're getting in between your sleep and waking, if they are able to access the in-between between your physical body and your astral body, chances are that you probably have a hole somewhere that allowed them to come in. So that's ultimately what we want to clear. The Entity Clearing Masterclass has everything to do with clearing your lowest vibrational access point that allows them to come in. It is about knowing what to do when you find an entity, or knowing what to do when you scan yourself and you have an attachment. And let me tell you, I have never really run into a person that doesn't have one. That's how common they are. And some of them are very, very dark. Some of them are very powerful. Some of them are very influential. Some of them are very narcissistic. Some of them are very manipulative. They show up in people's personality behaviors. And a lot of times it really has to do with the consciousness of the person, if they made an agreement for them to like share their body. Addictions. It's interesting. It's not necessarily that addictions are a cause of this. It's ultimately what's the root cause of addiction? The root cause of addiction is a wound. So there's a wound at the base of what it is that's going on that's causing the behavior of the addiction. And so the behavior of the addiction is also ultimately it's the root cause that becomes an access point for the entity as well. So it's not necessarily to say that the entity itself is the problem or that the addiction is the problem. It's that the wound at the core of it is actually where the access point is. So in this Entity Clearing Masterclass, and for those of you that are here and haven't joined in yet that are interested, you can go ahead and type clarity in the comments below and you'll get your invitation to join. So we're having 4 live meetings. We're actually meeting tomorrow is our first call. And then we're going to meet again September 10th, September 12th, and September 14th. So that's your opportunity to hop in with us. Beautiful. I see Silva saying, yes, it was just when you fell asleep and you had sleep paralysis. It was super scary. I actually have a video on YouTube as well about sleep paralysis and what that is and what that means and what that does. And I'm also going to gather quite a few video references that I've made over the years and also that I've watched that have helped me to better understand. So when it comes to entities and parasitic entities, there's a spectrum. So there's a spectrum that happens of the beings that, like I said, that can be really, really deep and dark and bad. And it's similar to like human personalities. You know what I mean? It's like there's certain people that, you know, can like kind of bug you, kind of annoy you, but it's not like a big deal. They're not like a huge threat. And then there's people that like come into your life and they're a wolf in sheep's clothing and they can actually really, truly mess a lot of things up for you. And it often you don't even necessarily know that it's happening. And again, those people come into your world. Why? Because they're attracted to some form of trauma or a wound that is already existing in your consciousness. So one of the really interesting things and epic things that is coming to me as I'm like getting ready to channel and lead this course is that there's a lot of opportunity for big shifts in your life when we intentionally go to that deepest, darkest vibrational frequency. So if you think of your entire auric field, right? Your entire auric field as the entire spectrum of all energies that you specifically are carrying. This is why it's really important to be very intentional with your energy and to be very intentional with whose energetic fields you're sharing with. Because it's not even just about entities, it's that you can share your energy with people that have lower frequencies that can influence this spectrum. So if you think of your entire energetic composition, it makes up your entire frequency. Now, your signature frequency is what I like to call it your signature frequency, but it is the frequency that is unique to you, that is the frequency of your soul, that is just on the outside of the spark of divinity that is at the core of your soul. So the spark of divinity that is at the core of your soul is your monad. That's why I had this tattoo. People ask me about this all the time. This is representative of the God spark, the divine genome, the God molecule that is within. So you have that, and then you also have your signature frequency on the outside that is the first separation of source consciousness to your egoic identity. So within this spectrum, you have the spectrum of all of your shadow attributes and all of your light attributes. Well, what ascension means is that ascension means that you are holistically increasing your vibrational frequency and increasing your mental and egoic consciousness through activating your heart consciousness. So your heart consciousness is humble. Your heart consciousness is loving. It's nurturing. It's compassionate. It's loving grace. It is your divine feminine. So your heart consciousness, once that starts activating, it also starts illuminating those shadow aspects of yourself that are there. So those shadow aspects of yourself ultimately also are the parts of you that attract the toxic partner or the very unpleasant lessons in work or with friends. It's the part of you that is attracting. It's a point of magnetism that is attracting these lessons that are pulling at your heart so that you can actually ascend and grow. Meaning that when you step into these challenging circumstances or trauma bonds, that you have the opportunity to face them, alchemize the frequency, integrate it, which ultimately raises your entire field of consciousness. So when we're talking about the entity clearing masterclass, again, it is about dealing with some of these external parasitic vampirical entities. Some of us have them from birth. Some of us adopt family lineage entities. Some of us have, and I'm saying this with this snarky kind of attitude because I've had to deal with it in my own family line. It's not pleasant. It's not pleasant at all. And so what I have learned with that is that instead of trying to go for the guttural and beat up and bully and go to battle with these entities, which is how I was taught, actually. This was how I was taught when I was 21, 22 years old, and I started clearing entities from my own field and was learning to clean them from other people. So I've been doing this for a very long time. I'm actually very seasoned in this. It's just not something that I put on Instagram very often until now because it's not my favorite part of this work. But I do think in a lot of ways it is the most important. So here we are. So ultimately, there are many, many different ways in which we can pick up these parasitic entities. It can happen through sex. It can happen through drugs. It can happen through alcohol. Alcohol is one of the biggest key pieces there that allow them to come in. We know this, it's called spirits. We know alcohol. There's like a Latin root that is basically like a doorway to the ghouls, right? So we want to be very careful and very intentional with this. Now, the other piece of these entities that I have learned is that they aren't always an external consciousness. Sometimes it is a part of our inner wounding that basically creates a projection of itself as an external personality that at the bottom line is really just calling on attention. It's asking for attention. It's asking to be seen. It's asking to be nurtured. It's asking to be heard. So the way that I approach entity clearing is by the embodiment of my divine compassionate grace, my divine mothering energy. It is something also that was just natural within me as a child. And as I lead us through that is activating that aspect of your qualities as well. So ultimately, again, if you look at the entire view of all of the frequencies that you are carrying or that you are holding, when you release the deepest, densest, darkest point, and this happens in seasons, right? When you're 14, you're not able to access your deepest, darkest shadow. Even sometimes when you're 25, you're not able to access that deepest, darkest shadow. What is required to be able to do that is an emotional capacity to know that you're not going to go off the rails, that you're not going to relapse, that you're not going to like go back into old patterns that are going to be really harmful and detrimental. So ultimately what it takes to get there. And so I will lead us through this, but you will be your own guide to be able to go as deep as you're able to go. And so you may want to listen to some of these transmissions a few times and they'll serve you on a deeper level every time you listen. So ultimately that's what we're talking about. And there's a lot of deeper intricacies, obviously, that I'm going to go into in the masterclass, and we're going to do the actual clearing. I'm going to lead us through a deep dive transmission and do the actual clearing, which I would not do here on a public forum on Instagram. It's really important to have an intentional and sacred, even though it's virtual, but an intentional and sacred temple space. And because the nature of this particular experience is exactly what it is, it's swimming in some dark territories, we want to be super intentional, super clear, super present. So with that, again, if you are interested in joining, we're having our first meeting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. But if you're interested, you can go ahead and type clarity in the comments here. You can also type clarity on any of my last reels. And you will get, I also actually have the link in my stories, but you can type that here and you'll get the link sent to you to be able to register and join. We already have almost 90 people in this one, so I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be doing this. Yes, everything is recorded. Everything is recorded, and it'll be automatically uploaded, so it won't even take 24 hours for you to have access to it. And the other thing that I do want to say is that I've already uploaded multiple classes, and these are multiple classes that have been around this theme. The one really, really important one that is going to be extremely beneficial for you to watch if you're interested in this, or let's say you're a massage therapist, or you do intuitive readings, or you find someone that does have a pretty gnarly entity attachment, you want to be able to know that you are standing fully in your personal power, and there's nothing that any of these, I'm censoring myself, things can do to you. You basically want to know that you can alpha them, but you're not able to alpha them if you are operating on woundedness. So that's where the core principles of this really come from. It's that we are activating the deeper and deepest parts of your integrated self, of your wounded self, and bringing them to light, bringing them to the surface to be loved, to be recognized, to be acknowledged, to be nurtured. And ultimately what that's going to do is it's going to up level your consciousness. And here's the real epic freaking bonus on this, is that instead of manifesting your dream house and putting your dream house on your vision board and doing all this stuff, I personally like to focus on magnetism. What is my frequency point of attraction? What am I attracting? What am I saying yes to? What am I saying no to? Where is my heart open? Where is my heart closed? Am I shut down and refusing blessings, or am I open to receiving blessings? All of that has to do with your main point of attraction. So if we're clearing your lowest vibrational frequency, what that does is it activates your magnetism in a completely different way. Your ability to magnetize what is actually best for you, it starts coming in naturally because you've cleared the bunk points of attraction. right? Law of attraction sometimes can have us spiritually bypassing. So positive thinking is really beautiful, but if you're positive thinking, and let's say you have a family ancestral entity that you're battling with, and let's say you've got, some personality disorders in the family that keep bringing you down, or, fill in the blank, whatever it is that you're consistently attracting in your life, and it's like you're trying to get to that point of magnetism and you just keep slingshotting yourself back, well, there's a reason. There's a reason. We need to address the reason. We need to actually get in there and unhook whatever cord is fucking you over, basically. So some of these things, we need to address what's real. We need to address what's happening. We need to take responsibility for our own behavior, our own personality traits, our own circumstances that are recreating toxic patterns. And so when we're acknowledging those points within us that are recreating these toxic patterns, it actually gives you the freedom to set yourself free in a way that you wouldn't be able to without actually acknowledging that they're there. So again, if you're interested, we just had a bunch of new people hop on. If you're interested, you want to join in, our first meeting is tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. You can go ahead and type clarity in the comments here. And please, if you guys are here tuning in and you've got some questions for me, please, now is your time. Now is your opportunity. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome. You seem to always catch me live. I love it. I love it. All right, I've got a couple more questions in this email here, and I like where we're going with this. Okay, so she says, I don't recall experiencing these types of negative energies until now, in parentheses, after I've spiritually awakened. Have they always been there, and can I just see them now that my third eye is open? Yes, that's the case. They have always been there. And I'm going to go on a little bit of a soapbox and a tangent here on black magic. And I'm going to simplify it like this. Just because you don't know how to identify black magic does not mean that you are not susceptible to it. Unfortunately, part of the manipulation tactics that are being used in the Matrix against humanity has to do with consent. Well, one of the ways that they kind of find the loophole with that is when you buy a movie ticket, or when you pay for certain subscriptions, or when you put yourself in a circumstance where you are watching satanic rituals on the VMA or the Olympic stage or whatever it is. So just because you don't know how to identify it and you're watching it does not mean that you're not actually getting programmed by it, unfortunately. When I saw the last Doctor Strange, I was absolutely freaking mind blown. It was nothing like the first one, and the amount of black magic and psychological manipulation and control that was in that movie absolutely blew my mind. Blew my mind that it is happening. So they're not even hiding it at this point anymore. So from my personal standpoint, where I see that we're at in the stage of the Great Awakening is that it is all hands on deck. That's why you're seeing me doing Instagram lives with people who are in the same lane of business. There's no competition here. We are linking hands, and it is all hands on deck. Things are getting really weird. Things are going to continue to get really weird. And if you're feeling like you have no control of this spinning ball of madness that we're on, I want to put the power back in your hands and remind you that you do. And that's the point here, is that it's about doubling down and recognizing that the power that you have felt has been taken from you has actually been embodied in your system all along. You have just simply been tricked to believe that you don't have any. So we have to reinstate that personal power. We have to reinstate that fearlessness. We have to reactivate the connection and the understanding of your soul memories of where you were before you took this body. It is 100%, in my personal opinion, the absolute most important thing that we can be doing as a society right now is remembering where you came from, remembering and activating the truth of your divinity, remembering and activating the depth of the expansiveness of your own psychic abilities. I'm not doing anything here that anybody here is not capable of doing. Here's the thing, is that I have spent the last 15 years in a dedicated practice amplifying my own abilities and continuing to be curious about where they would take me. It is similar to being an athlete, right? Everybody has the ability to be an athlete. Everybody has the ability to be an artist. Everybody has an ability to do certain things, but it is what is it that you dedicate yourself to? I have simply dedicated myself to this and to this practice, and in a lot of ways because I couldn't escape it. You know, being born a medium, it comes with a whole set of weird things of navigating this matrix, you know, trippy world. But ultimately, there's a lot going on here that more and more and more, a majority of the population is capable and able to see. So there's some really potent and powerful opportunities that are here for us to step into our personal power. And that's what I am doing everything in my personal power to create for us as we step into this entity clearing masterclass. Is that in my experience, because Spirit guided me to lead this in June, and then through the month of July, I went through very unpleasant initiations to master this skill within me and to cross my T's and dot my I's and make sure that I am fit to lead this. Those of you who are here that are teachers or spiritual teachers or leaders, you know what I'm talking about. When you get the intuitive urge to create something, those lessons come. This is why I like teaching Quantum Leap Immersive and Quantum Cash Flow and, you know, the accelerator and things like this, because it's like, it's fun, it's creative. This entity clearing masterclass, it's like those ones, but it's going to be on steroids. Like, you are going to be able to manifest more quickly. You will be able to magnetize the life that you know you are capable of creating for yourself by the deepest desires in your heart. The reasons that you have been blocked from being able to do so is because you have these inner wounded points that are either attracting trauma bonds, they're attracting darker entities, they're attracting negative experiences. If you're still drinking and going out to bars and in places that have very dingy, dark energy, just stop doing that, because you're basically putting yourself in a toxic aquarium. Beautiful. And I'm seeing a question here. During the Lionsgate, you mentioned a possibility to also have a one-on-one with you while you go through the class. Where would you request that? Yeah, so when you purchase the program, there are a couple of other options to purchase after that will give you the option to do so. And I just sent the link out to people who've already purchased. So if you did already purchase, I just sent an announcement out that also has a link to book a one-to-one, which those are extremely limited. I really don't do a lot of those, especially if the theme is entity clearing, because it's just not my favorite thing to do. I know I keep saying this. We're going to get through it together, my friends. Beautiful. So how can you protect yourselves when watching these kinds of movies? Don't watch those kinds of movies. Most of us are unaware of the underlying messages. Don't watch mainstream movies. Don't watch Marvel movies. Don't watch these things. They're literally part of the programming. Look, you have Wonder Woman. You almost immediately have the pussy marches and women's empowerment marches and protests. You have Black Panther. You almost immediately have BLM movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, all sorts of other stuff going on. This is a part of the script. This is a part of the propaganda. So just don't watch those movies. Be very intentional with what you're watching, where you're getting your information from, where you're listening to your music, all of these things. It's super, super, super important. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Just saying hi to everybody. Yeah, the link will be in an email announcement that just went out. And so for those of you who've just joined in, you can go ahead and type clarity in the comments to join us for the Entity Clearing Masterclass. We're having our first call tomorrow, and then we're having a break because I felt that it was really important. One, I'm doing this cleanse. I want to make sure that when I lead us through the big 3-day push that I am, in my absolute tip-top most clear and strong form. So we are going to be doing that September 10th, September 12th, and September 14th. Beautiful. Yeah, so hard when you have kids to keep the filter as well. It really is. It really is. It's like, find what you know you can trust and just kind of like stick to that. Like I don't watch TV. I very, very rarely watch Netflix unless I like really need to rest, get out of the doer mode and rest. But ultimately, you know, I pretty much stick to my favorite YouTube channels, my favorite YouTube producers, people that I've had interviewed on my Instagram lives. And I mean, it's self-education, but some of that is even like a lifestyle shift and a lifestyle change. It's like, how are you spending your time? You know, we do have a finite amount of time every day. We do have an undisclosed finite amount of time in this world. And so some of these things, the one that I can say very clearly is Doctor Strange, the last one, because that was one of the last ones that I watched. My favorite YouTubes to watch, this is really funny. I don't think I've said this like publicly, but would be Good Mythical Morning. I absolutely love Rhett and Link. Are there any other mythical beasts here, or am I the only one? They are super funny. Yes, just as effective to watch the recording, for sure. That's why I included recordings of previous experiences in there, so you can also tune into it in that way. All right, so I have one more question on this email, and then if you guys have questions, you're here with me now. If you have questions on this topic, please let me know. All right, so next question is, when objects move, is that always a dark energy? No, it is not always a dark energy. I believe that our angels, our guides, our loved ones can influence electronics, can influence all sorts of things to let us know that they are there, to let us know that they are with us, to let us know that you know, they're there. And so, yeah, it's not always that when things move, it's a dark presence. What I would notice is there's a couple things, and it can be very subtle, but it's like if something moves in the room and there's like this shrill feeling of instantaneous fear and a dark feeling, then yeah, you probably got a funky, not happy being in the space. But if something moves and it's like, pay attention to your emotional body, pay attention to your emotional being. So that there is going to give you the opportunity to really start using your own discernment with, is it important for you to practice your own protection? Is it important for you to illuminate the whole field? And let me tell you guys something, is that I know that we've been taught that sage really helps to clear this, but it can really aggravate some darker beings. Sage does not just like clear out some, you know, some powerful beings that are operating in the fifth dimension and like have a grip in this reality. Sage can help clear and cleanse spaces, but when we're talking about some of these really dark, gnarly, very unpleasant and very unhappy, very fear-evoking kind of beings, Sage isn't going to do everything to clear it out. And so that's where, again, it comes down to you owning every ounce of your personal power and absolutely saying, no, this is not how this is going down. Because in some ways, let's say like a house is haunted. The house is haunted because these beings or these human beings died, and they died in a very unpleasant state. And so if they die in an unpleasant state and there's a lot of dark energy around, it's not going to be a pleasant experience. And so in that unpleasant experience, and let me tell you also, like, this is why I'm doing this parasite cleanse. This is why I'm being very considerate and very intentional with creating this course, is that I do not take this lightly. I do not take this assignment that I've been given by Source lightly. It's that if I am being called to activate light warriors to remember how to do this, I'm not going to be teaching you or telling you anything you don't already know. It's that I am going to be reminding you of what your soul's gifts naturally are, to know how to be a bridge between realms. Because to be working in this way with entities is an aspect of mediumship abilities. So these mediumship abilities that we are activating and that we're working with and that we're going to be talking about, this is why I don't take it lightly, and I take it with absolutely the utmost sincerity, and why I'm doing a 16-day detox fasting cleanse to prepare my body, mind, and spirit to really be at my top potential to do this, to hold this course, right? It's that these the strength and courage and bravery that it takes to take these steps, it alchemizes something in you that can never be taken away from you. It alchemizes something in you that becomes a permanent part of your being. I have full bars on my Wi-Fi, and I have been paused like 6 times in this session. And I know that that happens with technology when we have a lot of energy. And it's funny because I don't feel like we're moving a lot of energy, but we're obviously talking about an important topic. So what I mean by that these 3 classes, literally these 3 classes, even this conversation that you're here having with me now, they will change your life for the rest of your life. Because one, when you learn this stuff, you can't unlearn it. You can't go back to not knowing that it exists. It's like you have to keep moving forward, and this is part of the stages of awakening. This is part of the stages of awareness. If we are here to cultivate and create a heaven on earth reality together, we have to know how to protect ourselves, and we have to know how to fortify our personal strength, and we have to know how to be in such a deep state of self-acceptance that literally nothing else can exist in our field. And so that's what I'm talking about, again, when I'm talking about clearing that lowest vibrational frequency that's within you. It's that we are shifting into a new state of being. We are shifting into a new state of consciousness. We are shifting into a new, very profound arena of how all of us collectively are stepping into our greatest potential and stepping into our greatest personal power. This is happening by clearing and detoxifying the matrix, viral systems, and belief programs that are indoctrinated to us by these mainstream films, movies, TV, music, the music industry, holy moly. I mean, look at the satanic and black magic symbolism that's all over it. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. All right, when we're out at restaurants, concert, etc., is there something we can say to protect ourselves from the entities? When it comes to that, just like embodiment, daily life, etc., it's just knowing that you are guided, knowing that you are protected. Sometimes I will keep like an amulet or something in my pocket that for me is a reminder that to maintain my protective nature or to maintain that boundaried sense. For instance, I was at a weekend event this last weekend. There was definitely some entity activity. There were definitely some people imbibing, and I was really doing my best to stay away from it because I am still integrating what was going on, what happened during the Lionsgate in Shasta in a really, really beautiful way. So I was just feeling very protective of my aura anyway, because I was integrating and so much was moving around that the last thing I wanted was a bunch of people in and out of my auric field. Like, no. And so in that particular experience, even as I was going to bed, there were a couple of entities that were circling around me, and I was just like, just go home. Like, really just like, get out of here at this point. You know, some of it I get a little apathetic to because I've been dealing with it for so long. But when it comes to like, and I want to say this in the sense that like, it is important to take this conversation with all seriousness, but it is not, I don't want you to walk away from this conversation feeling more fearful. I want you to walk away from this conversation feeling more empowered. I want you to really be able to know that there is a lot of things that are here for you that's going to be important for you to embody and really take into sincerity how you are showing up in the world, more specifically in the world for yourself. Beautiful. You weren't able to play the clearing in action video. Has anyone else mentioned that? Maybe a tech pause. If you can send an email to magic@monadsociety.com, we'll go ahead and check that. If you do a clearing, what you clear will go to your kids since you're in the same home as them. Yes and no. There is a ripple effect. If you're clearing generational patterns, then yes. If you're clearing personal patterns, and because you're in the same home, there may be a ripple effect of how they choose to behave and act as well. There can be some very, human to human effects. There can be a change in the frequency of the house. It really kind of depends. If they are open to the clearing, then they will get more out of it. So you, I was just reading into this. I really want to keep this container with the entity clearing like as clean as possible and as clear as possible. With the quantum cash flow, I would have said like if you want them to by distance be connected to it to receive the healing, then yes, but I'm not going to say that for this one. I'm really going to recommend that everyone is very intentional and specific with their field is how they're showing up. So if you want for anyone else to do it, I recommend that they actually register, have their own login, have their own connection to that as well. Beautiful. I see. I'm so in sync with everything I'm working on. Entities, how they enter your energy body and literally consume your mind and life until you integrate it into light. Yes, very much so. And there's many, many different kinds. It's not just like one different kind. I don't know that I would necessarily call them species, but it's like, holy moly, they show up in so many different ways. I was thinking about that today. I think I sent it in my Telegram groups about how I wish there was a book, or maybe I could work with an artist to describe so many of the different kind of beings that I've seen in the forms that they take and just how funky and weird it can get. But yeah, there's a lot here for us. There really is a lot here for us. And we just had another group hop on. So for those of you that are interested in joining, please feel free to type clarity in the comments. And when you type clarity in the comments, you'll automatically be sent the invitation to join the Entity Clearing Masterclass. We're having our first meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then we're having 3 meetings in September 10th, September 12th, and September 14th. All meetings will be recorded. You'll have access to them for years to come so that you can come back and listen to them when you need to. Let's say you listen to the entity clearing transmissions or meditations, and let's say you go to a concert or a show and you decide to take psychedelics or you decide to overdrink or whatever, and then you find yourself in an entity problem situation again, which I've had to learn the hard way too many times, if I'm being very honest with all of you. But ultimately those transmissions will be there for you to help you clear whatever takes place or whatever happens in your field at any point. And that's the true benefit of the recordings, is that they will continue to serve for a very, very long time. I actually just had somebody that, sent me a message because they had listened to, I included Quantum Leap transmission. And the Quantum Leap transmission, they listened to it and it said it just completely knocked him out into a nap state. And that's actually very common for people, especially when they first start coming into Mona and they first start listening to the transmissions, because the transmissions are very, very strong. And so what that means is that your egoic consciousness in some ways just simply isn't ready for the information that's coming through. So you'll actually just fall asleep, and you'll fall asleep and is on a subconscious level, you are still receiving the transmissions. And that's where and why I tell people to listen to the transmissions until you can actually listen to it all the way through without zoning out. Because that means that you've been able to fully walk step by step and integrate every piece of the information that's there. So again, if you are new to this kind of work, or even intermediate, or if you're not familiar with light language, or even my specific channel and style of teaching, it can be very strong. It can be very strong. Stephanie's saying, yep, so strong, life shifting. Yeah, a lot of people that come into my course, I've even had people that have come into my courses and then had an experience of food poisoning, but ultimately it's like it is the depth of the core root of the stuff that's like actually clearing, that's actually being purged from your body to evoke major shifts, to evoke major change. And that's what's going to allow for the room for you to step forward in this world in a different kind of way. Beautiful. Yeah, I see so much light in the transmissions. Yes, yes, yes. I really do my best to deliver and to serve in this way, in such a powerful way. And one of the things that actually came through for me in when I was in Mount Shasta, I had a lot of Lemurian past lives start coming up. Like I was remembering a lot of past life experiences that I had in Lemuria, that I had in Telos, that I had in some of these other fifth dimensional like temple spaces. And one of the really interesting things about it was that I was shown that it's important for me to level the bar and up level the standard of what it is that we're doing in Monad, because I've been a little bit casual about it, and recognizing that we are stepping into a sacred temple space, and that by stepping into this sacred temple space, even if it's modern and even if it's virtual, it is really important to hold that to the utmost respect and the utmost intention of how it is that we are showing up. And I also really think Spirit put me on this assignment with this entity masterclass to encourage me to do so, because it's no joke, you guys. It's no joke. It is, the benefits can be all fun and games, but when we go in there and we actually start clearing these attachments, there's a lot of variables that can take place. And so I want to make sure, again, that I'm operating in a tip-top shape and that I'm able to offer the support in the community to know that we are able to clear and really activate a deeper intention of integrity and a deeper intention of how each and every person is showing up. So I know that even with the title and the name of this class, the people that are signing up are warriors. Like this is not fluffy bunny spirituality. This is not your chakra, your crystals and, chakra rainbows type of deal. That's great. That's a gateway. That's the doorway to get you in the door. And then some of you have been aware that you've had some pretty significant spiritual awakenings and ego death. Spirituality is an ass-kicking journey. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not for the weak or feeble-minded. To be dedicated to this path is in full devotion. It is a full devotional life experience. It changes your life. When you wake up, when you really wake up, not just, the government's been lying to me. When you really wake up and you really start acknowledging the truth of your divinity and what your soul went through to get you into this human body in the first place, and you start recognizing how valuable and how precious this life experience is, and that there are forces of weird consciousness that are in this world that are doing everything they can to destroy it and farm and siphon and just life force energy from this planet and from people. That's where I go a little bit mama bear. That's where I go, not on my watch. Not on my watch. And there's only so much that I can do as an individual. And so I know that I'm here to be a leader and way shower for warriors. I know that I'm here to be a leader and way shower for embodied earth angels. I know that I'm here to be a facilitator of as many awakenings as possible. I know that I am here, and I've known this since I was a little girl, and I truly woke up to my purpose when I was about 21 years old. And you better believe that I did everything I could to fall back asleep. I kicked and screamed through my spiritual awakening. I was pissed. I was not ready for that kind of responsibility. I was 21 years old and I love to party. I was not happy at the realizations that I was having of what was going on. And ultimately, I've dedicated my entire life to not only developing a sheer strength in my abilities and my relationship to my sovereignty and choosing myself, clearing the addiction of self-abandonment to try to fit in and to try to belong in places where people wanted to keep me small, which, let me tell you, is still happening even in the last week. I know that I'm up leveling because people have been dropping out of a line, and I know that I'm up leveling because friends are spinning out of orbit, and it's not the most pleasant part of the acceleration and the up leveling experience. But when you start shifting your frequency, there will be some people who are not coming with you. It's just a part of the experience. But I have never let that deter me from staying committed to my focus and what I'm doing here with you all. And I don't expect everyone to show up for their purpose in the way that I have, because it took me several years to really show up with the level of sincerity that I do now and level of maturity. I've had to go through so many different gateways of my own growth experiences to even create this platform to share with you in this way. But again, I know that this is what I'm here to do. And I know that I'm here to attract like-hearted and like-minded people that are at a stage of, wondering what's going on in this world and feeling that homesickness to another planet, feeling like they don't belong here and not knowing why and not knowing how. And then not only that, seeing the chaos in the world and going, I don't know what to do about it. But ultimately, there's a peace in the grace in this that allows us to open our hearts in such a way that we see the truth of divinity within ourselves, that it is not anywhere outside of you that you have to go to find your own reconciliation, your own answers, or your own healing. It is all there within you. So it is by activating that internal compass, and it is by activating that internal map that's going to lead you to the sovereignty that I'm speaking about. And ultimately, the core principle behind all of this, and my core desire, is to bring you to the space where you are in such an abundant receiving mode of your divine inheritance and your divine blessings that it is a non-negotiable behavior and action step every single day to step into the power of your divinely assigned mission. That it's like nothing else makes sense. And it takes years to detoxify yourself from what that looks like in so many other ways. Beautiful. Hello, hello. Hi, Eve. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. All right. What indicated to you that a friend dropped out of your alignment? We got in a fight. I had another friend that I just recognized was not in a space or capacity to be there for me as a friend. And it wasn't necessarily that we got in a fight or didn't get in a fight. It was just illuminating. It was illuminating. There were some certain things that came into my life that were very, very heavy. One specifically was I had a friend that I almost started a retreat company with about 10 years ago. And she called me to help find a missing person. And when I was psychically and empathically reading what was going on there, it absolutely dropped me to my knees, because it brought a lot of my deepest fears, and being my deepest fears being a visible leader and having a platform in this way. It brought a lot of that to the surface. And so I needed some support navigating that. And there was one friend that I called out to who just, I became aware just didn't necessarily have the bandwidth to meet me in that place. And that's okay. There's no harm. There's no foul. It's just, if I'm aligning my inner circle and being very intentional with my inner circle of how I'm going to keep moving forward, because I know that my life, I don't want to necessarily say that I know that my life is going to get more intense. I just know that I'm here to be a way shower during the time of the Great Awakening. And I know that that's not exactly an easy path. So it is important for me to have people that are in my life that are supportive, and maybe not able to meet me 100% all of the time, but are able to be there with me. And so there were certain pieces of that just became illuminating as to, I mean, you guys know what it feels like to outgrow people. It's that. You just know what it is. It's a bit more difficult when they're people that you've known since childhood. But and what I've learned is that in the dropping off of these experiences, it's just let go, like hands off the wheel. Just let it be. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just simply means that right now, at that point, at that juncture, it's a non-match. That's all that it means. So it doesn't have to be a big dramatic thing or, mean anything about anybody and their personality, or, we can all grow, we can all shift, we can all, do all sorts of things. It's just a matter of, for me personally, I want to surround myself with people, one, who are choosing clarity and sobriety. I want to choose people that are dedicated to their soul purpose. I want to choose people that are entrepreneurially minded, so they know what it means. to get your ass kicked in the entrepreneurial arena. It's just nice to have that level of relatability in certain ways. And it doesn't mean that, one person has to meet all of those things, right? When you're looking at creating your inner circle of your support network and your support team, and you start evolving and you start growing, I mean, sheesh, when I came back and I was channeling light language and told my family that my star family, shared with me the name Sitara and that was the name I was going to be going by now. I mean, come on. They were like, really? The star people? The star people told you this? Really? And I'm like, yeah, because they're very Christian. So I'm like, okay, well, have you read Ezekiel? They talk about the blue people coming from the sky. I'm like, homies. They're my homies. I like the light language, the speaking in tongues. What do you think that is? It's a soul language. It's connecting to the deeper parts of your own humanity. It is speaking the language of God because you yourself are God embodied, right? I mean, that's just an example, but like when I don't know, you look at me and you have your own ideas of who I am and what my life has been and whatever they are, right? I have no control over that. But ultimately it's like you have them. And so what is interesting about that is that I just want you to know that I've earned my stripes 8 ways to Sunday. I was raised in white middle class suburbia. My parents were not awake. In fact, I'm waking them up through my own journey. I did not have it easy. I first started seeing a counselor when I was 6 years old, and that's when I started learning how to speak I language. I started learning adult communication at 6 years old because that was some of the circumstances that were going on in my life. So I did not have it easy. And in fact, the trauma and the experiences that I endured ultimately were what led me to the path of healing. But I also found my way to drugs and alcohol very young because I was like, I just wanted to escape the pain that I was in. I was suicidal when I was 8 years old. I was like, get me out. I don't want to do this anymore. Like the stripes that I earned very young, and I consider it the accelerated learning path. And that accelerated learning path is really what I feel like fortified me to wake up at 21 years old, 21, 22 years old. It was like I was able to see things more clearly also because I had this power and wisdom within me that I found my way to it myself. I had a couple, key books that were put in my hand and certain things that took place, but it was ultimately a very, very wild ride for me to get to this point where I'm actually having a public conversation with you about clearing entities and saying, yes, Spirit, I'm willing, I'm ready to show up and show a large group of people all at one time how to do this, because it's one thing doing it one-on-one and it's a whole other thing leading it in a group. So as I'm here showing up with you, I'm in the trenches. I'm showing up for my initiations. And I may be farther along on that path than you. We may be side to side. You may outgrow me. It doesn't even matter. There's no room for comparison at this point either. It's just that we are here doing what we are doing, showing up for our divinely inspired and divinely guided mission so that we can step forward in full confidence and in our personal power. I also have a YouTube video that's called How to Become Unmanipulatable. I highly recommend watching that one. That one is key. How to become unmanipulatable. You have to clear codependency. You have to be clear people pleasing. You have to recognize when somebody's lying to you. You have to know how to discern in your body when truth is being told in front of you or when somebody has an agenda. Like there's so many different ways in which we can be manipulated. And again, I just want to slide this in here. For those of you who are new that are hopping on, go ahead and type clarity in the comments here. If you'd like to be invited to the Entity Clearing Masterclass, you'll get a direct message sent. So I'm going to tap back into the questions here. Are entities revengeful, aka pissed that they are banished and therefore come back in revenge? No, because we clear them and we send them to the light. We send them fully onto the next stage of their own growth. You can piss them off if you're like around your house burning sage and you don't know what you're doing. That can aggravate them. Some of them have tentacles. So if you cut off a tentacle, you can also start pissing off the other parts of them. Book recommendations, Many Lives, Many Masters, the Sophia Code. I'm currently listening to Anna, the grandmother of Jesus. Holy moly. I thought I was listening to that to help me just rest and integrate from Shasta, and it started activating so many other things. It was quite wild. Beautiful. People in your family are questioning you a lot lately. Yep. Take it one step at a time. And here's the thing is that you do not have to verbally prove anything to anyone. Like, the way that you show up in your embodied light is enough. It is enough. We don't I call this wagging the spiritual boner. Here's the thing. People wake up, they think that they have found long lost information, that they found all the answers to the universe. They go through this spiritual awakening and they're like, I've got to show it off to everybody. And it's just like this spiritual ego. Some people get stuck in that. That's where you have a lot of spiritual narcissism and all the weird distortions that are in the new age communities and that sort of stuff. But ultimately, there's a part of this that it's like, you don't have to try to convert everyone, right? We all know what it feels like to try to be converted to a religion, or when someone's trying to put their beliefs onto us. We don't have to do that. But what you can do is you can show up in your embodied light. You can show up in your embodied graciousness. You can show up in your embodied acceptance. And people will start going, what's going on with you? You're different. You're calmer, you're radiant, you're more beautiful. What is going on? I want to be sitting next to you more often. What is going on? That's when you open the door. That's when they open the door and you can share a little bit more about them. And then you can give them all my links. All right, beautiful. Such an interesting thing happening with this. All right. Your entity is literally attached to the root chakra, entered your heart, third eye. So much to heal. So much. You're so grateful to bring light to the path of these entities. Yep. Beautiful. All right, my loves. I adore you. I've got some stuff I need to do for this cleanse before I go to bed, but I wanted to hop on and just share some time and space with you. Again, reminding that our next call for the Entity Clearing Masterclass is 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow morning. All of it will be recorded, so if you're not able to be there live, that's fine. When you register now, is it necessary to sit and meditate regularly? It depends on what's going on in your life, and it depends on what your prerogative is. If you want a calmer nervous system, I would suggest meditation every day, or a walking meditation, or really focusing on presence. But is it necessary? It really depends on what your aim, what your focus, what your goals are. All right, let's go ahead and close out with some codes. Again, if you're here and you haven't joined, you can type clarity in the comments. I want to say thank you, everyone, for being here. Please go ahead to my page and play the algorithm game with me. Go ahead and like, share, comment, do all the things. It really helps my page. It really helps to get it into the hands of more people. How to remove a lot of negative emotions and mindset. We're going to talk about all of that in the Entity Clearing Masterclass. And you can also come back and actually watch this from the beginning. We went over a lot of that here through this. Beautiful. You're so welcome, Eve. Lovely to connect with you here. And Kareem's, yes, welcome, love. All right, so let's go ahead and just take a couple nice big deep breaths. Atria wanua hoa pua kua satri I atria wanua hai I asia tria wania wapua kai I ataria wa ho'onua uapu unuku usutrua ni haai wa unia wa haai kunuku sutrua hayatri ni wa kuatrunwa sutru. Beautiful. All right, my loves. Beautiful. I see the reflection, your energy, big elevation since 8-8. You've noticed. Yes. And I am just riding that wave. Beautiful. I've so thoroughly enjoyed this time here with you. And again, last chance, you can type clarity in the comments before we close this out and you'll automatically be sent. Time tomorrow is 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that'll be in our Kajabi home zone. I just created a Telegram group for us as well so that we can have a place to connect and chat, because I really do think this is going to be a big one and we're going to need some of that community support. So if you're ready to activate the next level of your light warrior beingness, join us. All right, my loves, I adore you. As we go forth, may we integrate the healing and the lessons received with courage, self-love, and compassion. Our session here is very much in love and very much complete. All right, my dears, I'll chat with you again very soon. Mwah! Ciao, ciao. And we want to share a big, generous thank you to our listeners who decide to become Monad Society members. This supports this podcast so we can stay true to our heart-centered vision of freedom in topic and expression. We are happy to welcome new members into Align, our community that meets twice monthly for deep dive transmissions, Build, our quantum business development for intuitive entrepreneurs from $0 to $10,000 a month, and Rise, our advanced level psychic development and scale your business course for high-level founders and CEOs by application only. I'm grateful that Monad itself is a sponsor for this powerful and free offering. So please know your invitation to join our movement is here and now. Please click the link in the description below, monadsociety.com/Sitara Speaks, to see what offering resonates with your higher calling. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Beyond the Physical. I hope you found our discussion enlightening and inspiring. Remember that this is an ongoing journey and I'm here to support you every step of the way. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to hear more, I encourage you to subscribe so you don't miss on any of our future episodes. Connect with me on social at sitara.speaks for more insights and updates. Until next time, stay connected to your inner wisdom and keep shining your light.